Hi, my name's Dr. Steve Simpson, sometimes known on this channel as the Zen Doctor, and I work as an elite performance coach, which means people just like you, because we're all capable of performing at a much higher level than we give ourselves credit for. This series is simply about what do we want and how do we get it. And sounds easy, but it's a little bit deeper than that, which is why there's going to be a number of episodes. Anyway, in the first episode we talked about things that were actually by comparison quite easy, in as much as they didn't need much thinking about. Those were our survival needs of finding accommodation, of having shelter and food and water and stuff like that. And then once that's in place, if we've survived that much, we're on the journey. And next comes the desire to stop worrying about stuff, and to find things that will help us to stop worrying. And first of those is money, because money solves a lot of problems. And then another common one we want is security, and money can help with that one. And health, because we want to live longer, and money can help that. Now, it doesn't mean to say that you've got to have money, but it's the grease. Anyway, that's all in the first episode. We're taking it a bit further now, because the things that I just mentioned come from deep inside our reptile brain, and that's why there isn't much thinking, because it's hardwired. They're reflexes. We feel in a particular way. We don't even know why we feel like that, and we reach out and grab what we think is ours. Now we're dealing with a higher center of the brain, which is the conscious mind, or part of the conscious mind, and it's called ego. And ego has its role as the thought police, as the strict teacher, as our own worst critic. And it has a voice. It's a voice in our head, and it'll tell us how we're pretty rubbish at this, pretty rubbish at that, will never amount to anything, and why we shouldn't even try some of the things that we think, well, I would like to try and see if I can, ... And with the ego, with those kind of negative thought patterns come they're welded into some of our social evolution as well, because we are social animals. That is part of our evolution, and we need the company of other people. We need the acceptance of other people. We need the acceptance of family and friends. And there is hardly any worse punishment in society to be shunned by others, to be shunned by family, to be shunned by the clubs we belong to be shunned by the company, and indeed in severe cases to be excommunicated, to be thrown out of our village, to be thrown out of our tribe, even to be thrown out of our country. And it's not just human beings who have this need to be accepted. It's in the animal world too. We see it in the primates, and we see it in horses. Horses will literally turn their back on a rogue member of their tribe who's done something to disappoint them. So we avoid that at all costs, even not fully understanding why that's so important to us. Now, if we've been lucky enough to have kept our friends and family close to us, and perhaps our enemies even closer, our thoughts then will take a slightly different direction, and we'll start thinking about ourselves with this extra time we have on our hands. And one of the expressions that I use, I didn't invent it myself, I found it from somewhere, but it's pretty accurate. It conveys the message, and that is, ego is no amigo. Now, we're liked by other people. Now we have to start liking ourselves. And that can be really tricky for some people. And some people can go their whole lives never really liking themselves. In fact, I suspect that all of us have got more than a little of this in us. And unfortunately, well, let's start with the good news. Some ego is probably good, because it stops us doing stuff that's really stupid that comes from the reptile brain. But too often this is overdone. This policing, this control is overdone, and it makes us timid, sometimes frightened of our own shadow, over concerned with what other people are going to say about if I do this, if I do that. And think about this for a moment. We've all known babies. We've all watched them develop into young children. We know young children. Do they have this ego that is constantly telling them not to do stuff? No, it's quite the opposite. These kids, babies, don't even think about ego. Nobody's told them about it yet. So as long as they're being looked after, they're usually pretty happy. And the same with kids, particularly when they're old enough to start playing games with their friends. They're totally uninhibited in their play and the sports that they partake in. But at a certain age, maybe 6, 7, 8, something like that, ego expresses itself. Ego has been turned on perhaps by some other person, which is a shame. Now, I said that this series is about giving strategies to help you get what you want, to work out what you want and then how to get it. So here's a strategy now that I've used many, many times with people, either individually or in groups. And the strategy is this. You have to say for yourself, in your head, I will never, ever say a bad thing about myself ever again. Now, if you're on your own, you can let it come out through your mouth because you're using a few more million nerve cells to do that. But the important thing is that you have to catch yourself. Every time you say something bad, catch yourself with this voice and just don't allow that to come through. Stop it nip it in the bud. And if you do this every day, for a week, for a month is the important thing. For some reason, a month seems to be about the minimum time necessary to cement a change. Do this for a month and you'll find it'll become almost automatic. And you'll find that you are thinking of yourself in a far more favorable light. And the strange thing is that other people will notice the change in you even more than you will. So why don't you try that, at least for the next week, and then we'll have episode 3. Not quite sure what we're going to talk about yet, but it'll certainly be another step on the journey to identifying what we want and how to grab it. So in the meantime, shut up that inner critical voice so that you can get on with the life that you're intended to get on with. Goodbye.